Imagine earning $200,000 in the time it takes you to eat breakfast, every single morning. While you sip your coffee and check your notifications, Alex Karp, the CEO of Palantir, earns more than most people on this planet will see in their entire lives. We are talking about $200,000 every 15 minutes. To put that in perspective, there are 2.5 billion people on Earth who will never save that much money, even if they worked every day and lived to be 100. That is nearly 1/3 of the human race. We are taught from childhood that the world is a meritocracy, a fair race where the fastest and hardest workers win the prize. We are told that if you struggle, you just haven't worked hard enough. But if that were true, the hardest working people in the world wouldn't be the ones breaking their backs in sun-scorched fields or hazardous construction sites just to buy a single loaf of bread. If wealth was truly a reward for physical labor, the poorest among us would be the wealthiest, and the skyscrapers would belong to the laborers, not the shareholders. Today, we are autopsying the great inequality. We are going to tear down the comfortable myth of the self-made man and look at the cold clinical factors that decided your fate before you even took your first breath. This isn't just a video about bank accounts or stock portfolios. It is the story of an invisible birth lottery, the harsh reality of geography, and a 12,000-year-old mistake that shifted the course of humanity forever. We are looking at the walls we don't see, and the ladders that stay just out of reach for billions. Let's start with a man who became the poster child for the American dream in China. He failed his university entrance exams 3 times. He was the only person out of 24 applicants rejected from a basic job at KFC. His name is Jack Ma. Today, he is worth $30 billion. We love his story because it tells us that anyone, no matter how many times they fail, can make it to the top. But here is the critical part the motivational speakers always conveniently skip. Jack Ma didn't just work hard. He started his business at the exact moment China's economy was undergoing a tectonic explosion. He stepped into a total vacuum where digital competition simply did not exist. He wasn't just talented or persistent. He was a passenger on a rocket ship that was already fueled and launching. He happened to be one of the few people standing on the launch pad with the right key. This brings us to the Silver Spoon Index. Forbes doesn't just track who is a billionaire, they track how they started on a scale of 1 to 10. A 10 means you truly rose from the bottom, born into a slum with nothing. A 1 means you inherited a finished empire. Most of the names that dominate our news feeds, men like Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, and Jeff Bezos, are not 1s. But they are certainly not 10s either. They are 5s and 6s. They didn't start at the finish line, but they were born inside the stadium with elite educations, high-level family networks, and small million-dollar loans. They started with the luxury of failure. For a 5 or a 6, a failed business is a lesson or a pivot. For a 10, a failed business is a catastrophe that ends in hunger and eviction. One group has a safety net, the other has a trap door. Why is this happening? The answer lies deep in our evolutionary past. For 99% of human history, we were equal. As hunter-gatherers, you only took what you could carry on your back. You couldn't own a forest or a river. But 12,000 years ago, the moment we planted the first seed and stayed in one place, we invented surplus. And surplus created a brand new problem. It needed a manager. The manager became the chief became the king, and the king became the ultimate owner of the land. Since that day, the primary resource of the world, capital, has been finite. Inequality wasn't a glitch in the system. It was the invention that made our civilization possible, and we have been paying the price ever since. Look at the map. Geography is the single most accurate predictor of your wealth, often more important than your IQ or your work ethic. If you were born in Norway, your social floor is still higher than the ceiling of someone born in Burundi. In some countries, the social elevator is broken, stuck on the ground floor. In others, it is an escalator moving toward the top. If you are part of the golden billion, you own more capital than the other 90% of the world's population combined. We are living in a historical moment where social mobility is actually at its lowest point in a century. The walls are getting thicker, and the ladders are getting shorter. Does this mean everything is hopeless? Not quite. While inequality inside countries is growing, the gap between the countries themselves is starting to shrink. The internet has become the new surplus, the first resource in human history that isn't finite. For the first time, a child in a remote village can access the same library of information as a student at Harvard. The lottery is still rigged, but the prize pool is getting bigger and the information is leaking out. The gates are still there, but the walls are starting to crack. Now that you see the invisible walls, and now that you know the rules of the game were never designed to be fair, how are you going to play the hand you were dealt? Subscribe to our channel. Many more fascinating stories are coming.